Hey everyone, welcome back to Straight to Your Kitchen. Today we're diving into the world of indulgence with a treat that's as delicious as it is dramatic, the Caramel Cascade Coffee Cake. Let's get started on your new favorite dessert. We're going to begin by making the streusel, which is what gives this coffee cake that irresistible crumble on top. Grab a medium-sized mixing bowl and add 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of cubed cold butter. The butter needs to be cold so it gives us those perfect crumbly clumps. Next, we'll add 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 cup of packed brown sugar, and 1/4 cup of white sugar. Now for a touch of warmth and spice, we're adding 1 tablespoon of cinnamon along with 2 teaspoons of coffee grounds. This is what brings the coffee flavor into the cake. And for an extra layer of sweetness, add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Mix this together until it forms those nice, moist clumps of streusel. You'll know it's ready when it starts to resemble wet sand. Once that's done, we'll cover it with a towel and pop it into the refrigerator to chill while we move on to the cake. The streusel needs to be nice and cold when we add it to the cake, so just let it sit while we work on the cake batter. Alright, now let's work on the cake. We want this cake to be moist and flavorful, with just the right texture to balance that amazing streusel on top. Start by adding 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour to a mixing bowl. Then we'll add 3/4 cups of white sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. Now give everything a quick whisk. Make sure you whisk it well so that the baking powder and salt are evenly distributed throughout the flour and sugar. The goal is to create an even mixture where all the dry ingredients are blended together. You'll know it's ready when the mixture feels light and airy with no clumps left behind. This step is key for getting that soft, even texture in the cake. Now let's bring in the wet ingredients. Add 6 tablespoons of softened butter, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1/4 cup of freshly brewed coffee. This is what gives the cake that rich coffee flavor that pairs so beautifully with the caramel. Then we're adding in 2 whole eggs and 1/2 cup of sour cream, which will keep our cake super moist and tender. Once the wet ingredients are added, whisk everything together until you have a smooth, lump-free batter. It should be velvety and well combined with no dry spots or clumps remaining. The texture should be fluid, but just thick enough to hold that beautiful streusel topping we made earlier. Now it's time to assemble the cake. Grab a 9 by 13 inch baking dish and grease it with either some oil or butter, whichever you prefer. This will help ensure the cake comes out easily once it's done baking. Start by pouring in half of the cake batter and gently spread it out to cover the bottom of the pan. You want to make sure it's evenly distributed so you get a nice even base for your streusel and caramel to rest on. Next, take half of your chilled streusel and sprinkle it evenly over the batter. Be sure to cover it generously so every bite will have that delicious crumble. You want that perfect balance between cake and streusel in every piece. Once the streusel is added, it's time for the best part. Drizzle 1/3 cup of melted caramel all over the top. Pour it slowly and evenly, making sure the caramel seeps through the streusel and into the batter beneath it. Every bite is going to have that rich, gooey caramel goodness, so you want to make sure it's well distributed. Once that's done, pour the remaining batter on top, spreading it evenly over the caramel and streusel. You'll want to gently spread it so you don't disturb the layers too much. And for the finishing touch, sprinkle the rest of that delicious streusel evenly over the top of the cake. Don't be shy. Make sure every inch of the cake is covered with that golden, crumbly topping. The streusel will bake up beautifully in the oven, creating a perfect, delicate contrast to the soft, moist cake underneath. This is what gives the coffee cake its signature texture and flavor, so make sure it's spread generously to get that perfect balance of sweetness and richness in every bite. Now it's time to bake. Place this baking dish into your oven preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius. Bake for around 50 to 55 minutes. Now while it's still warm, we're going to drizzle the final touch, 1/4 cup of melted caramel over the top. Now let the cake cool down a bit before cutting into it. I know it's tempting to dive right in, but trust me, letting it cool a bit makes it easier to slice and gives the flavors a chance to settle. And there you have it, folks. Caramel Cascade Coffee Cake. Look at those layers, the rich buttery cake, the sweet caramel, and that crunchy streusel on top. This cake is the perfect combination of textures and flavors that's sure to impress anyone. I hope you give it a try, and when you do, be sure to let me know how it turns out. If you love this recipe, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more delicious desserts and kitchen tips. When you try this Caramel Cascade Coffee Cake, make sure to leave a comment below. Until next time, happy baking.